My sister threw my Christmas gift in the trash, so her husband threw away their marriage. I spent 4 months knitting my sister Misty a blanket because I couldn't afford anything she'd actually want. As Christmas got closer, I stayed up past midnight so many nights that my roommate thought I was losing my mind. She found me knitting at 2 in the morning and said, "You know she's not going to appreciate this, right?" I told her I knew, but my hands kept moving anyway because some pathetic part of me still wanted my sister to love me. Christmas morning at my parents' house started with Misty ripping open a diamond bracelet from our mother and shrieking so loud it hurt my ears. Our father gave her an envelope with a trip to Paris, and she jumped up and down like a game show contestant. And then her husband George handed her a box with diamond earrings that made her squeal, "You're the best husband in the entire world." I sat in the corner nervously holding my wrapped blanket while Misty swam in expensive gifts, and when she finally reached for my package, I felt my stomach turn itself inside out. She tore off the paper and pulled out the blanket I'd poured 4 months of my life into, and she held it up with 2 fingers like I'd handed her a bag of garbage. "Wait, is this a joke?" She laughed like she expected everyone to laugh with her. Nobody did, but that didn't stop her from dropping the blanket on the floor and saying, "Seriously, did you pull this out of a dumpster on the way here?" I felt my throat close up and Misty kept going. "I knew you were broke, but I thought you'd at least have the dignity to get me a gift card instead of embarrassing yourself like this." My mother stared at the floor and my father started playing on his phone. Misty picked up the blanket with one hand and tossed it into the trash can in the corner. "That's where that belongs, and honestly it's a perfect metaphor for your entire life." She laughed again while I sat there feeling like I'd been punched in the chest. George stood up from his chair and I prepared for him to join in because he'd always seemed like the type who looked down on people like me. But instead he walked over to the trash can and pulled out my blanket. He held it up to the light and I watched him actually look at the stitches I'd spent months perfecting. He turned to Misty. "Do you know how many hours this took to make?" Misty rolled her eyes. "Oh God, George, don't start with the sentimental garbage." George kept talking. "This took her hundreds of hours to knit while you were blowing my money on handbags you use once and screaming at waiters for bringing the wrong salad dressing." Misty's face twisted and she told him to shut up. George smiled and kept going. "You just threw your sister's gift in the trash and told her it was a metaphor for her life, and you want me to shut up?" Misty said he was being dramatic over a stupid blanket, and George laughed in a way that made everyone flinch. "I have made excuses for you for 3 years. I have told myself that the tantrums and the cruelty and the way you treat people beneath you was just stress. But this is who you actually are, isn't it?" Misty's mouth fell open and she looked at our parents for backup, but George pointed at them and said, "Don't even think about it, because you two are just as guilty for sitting there like cowards while she tears your other daughter apart." My father started to stand and George said, "Sit down before you embarrass yourself." My father sat. George looked back at Misty. "I have watched you be rude to servers and nasty to cashiers, and I told myself it wasn't that bad, but you just looked at your own sister and told her that her love belongs in the garbage." He stepped closer to her. "I want a divorce." Misty started screaming that he was humiliating her, and George said, "Good, now you know how your sister feels, except she didn't deserve it and you absolutely do." George walked over, folded the blanket carefully, then placed it in my hands. "This is the most thoughtful gift anyone in this room has ever received, and I'm sorry it went to someone who didn't deserve it."